Arctic char is a species that has fascinated me for quite some time, but I'd never had the chance to catch one before. They say that trout don't live in ugly places, but their cousins, the char, take that to another level, inhabiting some of the wildest environments of the polar north. It was to one of these wild and remote locations that I would be heading on this trip. A number of years ago, I read a magazine article about a place where sea-run Arctic char returned to their river, big, strong and aggressive, making for outstanding fly fishing. The article illustrated a tent camp where a fair amount of hiking was required to reach the fishing waters. The camp was in Greenland, and its name? Camp North. The journey to Camp North proved to be far from straightforward for our group. With our connecting flight from Nuuk to Sisimiut cancelled, a replacement flight was offered for 3 days later. As we later found out, this flight also failed to land in Sisimiut and returned to Nuuk. Following several days of bad weather and cancelled flights, there was also no accommodation available for us in Nuuk. With no land transport connecting towns and villages in Greenland, we then became the first overnight guests in Nuuk International Airport. Left alone, locked in the departures lounge as the airport staff went home, with bright lights left on, and more disturbingly the unattended luggage announcement being left to run at regular intervals, it wasn't the best night's sleep. In any case, with onward travel being completely uncertain, our camp staff were able to arrange a boat charter to take us all the way up the coast, more than 300 kilometres, to Sisimiut the following day. The weather also made the boat trip a real highlight and a great experience. Seeing Greenland's coastline from the water, along with icebergs, birds and whales. With this long sea journey, the distance could really be appreciated, along with how sparsely populated and wild this country is. Following a very welcome hotel meal in Sisimiut, we used the night high tide to make the final trip up to Camp North, arriving at 1 AM. Amazingly, only half a day later than planned. Waking up in Camp North, it felt odd to be in the most remote spot that I'd ever visited, but not having had to work physically to get there. Usually, I could feel the remoteness in my legs, but this was different. The fishing area around Camp North is vast though, and there would be plenty of opportunity to stretch those legs and explore throughout the week. After a long journey and late start, I made the decision to fish the closest waters to camp, the main river. The main river runs from the lake down past camp and out to the fjord. This is the first place that the sea-run char enter the river system, and, given that it was right at the start of the season, all of the fish were fresh from the ocean. The first holding pools are a few kilometres upstream of camp, and we set off to fish these pools from the lake down. Heading out, I really didn't know what to expect. What would the river be like? How should I fish it? How would the fish behave, and what would they feel like when hooked up? Before I could even rig up and tie a fly on, I was watching the first char being caught. These fresh fish don't have the recognisable colouring that you might associate with Arctic char. Instead, they're a blank silver with blue-green hues and individual markings. Beautiful fish, and now I was even more keen to experience catching one myself. Oh, that is a char. Oh, and it's off. Oh. Two. That's a fish on. That is a nice fish on. There we go. Longest I've had a fish on. Off we go. Shoo-wee. Almost in backing. Almost in backing. That is a lovely fish. Wow, Arctic char. Oh, what a beautiful fish. What a beautiful fish. Absolute stunner. Oh my word. Wow. Absolutely stunning. These fish were seriously strong for the size. What a feeling. After losing a small fish, Henrik told me that he had lost another 7 on a pink fly. I immediately swapped out my purple cowboy fly for a pink woolly bugger and, well, it didn't take long. Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Got you in the net. There are also resident char in the river, and these are much smaller than the migratory fish, but maintain lovely orange colouring.
Oh, lovely.
As the day progressed, the wind blew ever harder off the fjord, making casting challenging. And with my cap blowing off and needing to go back on cold and wet, the rain making it even more wild, it was time to head back to camp for a drink, some stories, and our first experience of one of Peter's excellent dinners. Heading out with camp chef Peter, day 2 was spent fishing the fjord. Fishing the fjord means hitting it at the right tide, both in terms of access and fish activity. This would be a completely different kind of fly fishing for me. Most of the staff and guests were Nordic, with plenty of experience of coastal sea trout fishing. My coastal fly fishing experience was limited to a day on the Louisiana marshes chasing redfish, so yeah, nothing like this. We hit the fjord with low tide approaching. Quite soon a hookup came, but off it went just as quickly. After that, things got very slow. I was uncertain whether I was doing something wrong, or had I missed the only chance of the day? The fjord is such a beautiful and peaceful place, with so much open water surrounded by steep and untouched shorelines. The low cloud cover and lack of wind also added to the complete sense of calm and intimacy with nature on this day. With just the occasional sound of a small stream trickling down the hillsides, this was audibly and visually very different to all of the other fishing locations around camp. With the views of vast openness in front of me, the positive feeling of isolation in wild nature was reaching deep inside. As the tide went slack, another bite was missed. Peter was now starting to catch, and I tried all kinds of retrieves, but was only missing bites. Surely I was doing something wrong. As the tide started to flow, Peter came for a chat, and whilst turned away with the fly left hanging, the obvious happened.
Yep. Oh. And that's what happened. Oh man.
As the tide came in, so did the fish. And now the action really started.
That's a nice one.
One particular fly has a special reputation for exciting char fly fishing in Greenland, the foam fly. Now that I'd had some good action beneath the surface, I was keen to try it out. Would it work? I hadn't seen any surface disturbances, but some fish had been chasing around into the shallows.
Oh, phew. That was cool, but missed it. Oh, oh, come on, come on. Oh, yeah. Not the biggest, but really cool. Ooh. Again? Yeah. That was a very small one. Oh, 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 come on, come on. Oh.
On fishing, I'm gonna start walking slowly, okay?
Okay, oh. That was...
It was bigger?
Yeah, I think so. But I only saw the splash, I wasn't watching.
Stop them. They're following.
Not anymore.
What a day this had turned out to be. As I said to Peter at the time, I've never been sea trout fishing, but I imagine this is something like sea trout fishing on steroids. Yeah, came the answer. That's it.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Up the main river and beyond the lake lies the upper river. A boat can be used to cross the lake when a group wants to fish there. A hike up to the lake with camp manager Christian lugging the fuel all that way, followed by the lake crossing, brought us to the bottom end of this stretch of river. An even more remote location, we would hike up to the top of this stretch where a waterfall lies just beneath the next lake. It's hard to describe how stunningly beautiful the landscape surrounding the upper river is. This was something else. A kind of magical scenery that I'd never seen before. Arriving at the top of the upper river, with the sun out and the wind dead, it became clear why mosquito nets were regarded as essential equipment for the trip. These flies and mosquitoes were pretty weird though. They hardly bit, but were just such an annoyance around the face. The fishing on the upper river was a bit more intimate than the main river. A slightly smaller stream and crystal clear with a lot of variation, from deep pools to pocket water, with sight fishing possible in places. Some foam fly fishing was attempted at first, without any reaction. So streamers it was.
Is it okay if I net it?
Yeah, go for it.
It's a good fish, right?
Yeah, it's a nice one.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. You got it? Oh, no, yeah. Go. Nice.
Beautiful, James.
Nice, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you too. Then you showed us there were some fish up here.
The foam fly was still on my mind though, so I had to give it a try.
Whoa!
Not quite. But after recrossing the lake, there was still time to fish the main river on the way back to camp. Waking up in a tent, shaking heavily in the wind, it still wasn't clear what lay in store for us that day. With no phone reception and no contact to the outside world beyond a satellite phone for emergencies, the weather each day was pretty unknown. As the first tent poles began to snap, it was clear that fishing wasn't on the menu. Tents began to collapse and break. Re-erecting them became became an increasingly futile exercise. And all that we could do was protect our gear as best as possible and wait it out in the mess tent, a tent more suitable to extreme conditions. Some of the gusts tested even this tent to its limits. Here we were, deep in the wilderness, completely cut off, sitting in a tent at the mercy of nature's forces. Now the satellite phone did get used. We were told that the hurricane-force winds would pass by the evening, and a team would come out to repair the camp at the next possible chance of reaching us, the following afternoon. Now we could truly sense just how wild this place was, and how small you could feel there. The only tool in camp, my Leatherman, would get heavily used that evening, repairing the tents as best as possible when the wind finally died down. All but one could at least be used that night, and we got through it pretty unscathed. Just before the lake on the main river, a tributary flows in from another valley. Full of meltwater, the tributary was running high and had a cloudy, milky colour this week. Heading out with Peter again, our hiking target was the fastest route to the so-called $1 million pool. So called because of its reliability for providing fish. The tributary valley was another different and wondrous environment, steep-sided and closer to the snow and ice-capped peaks. For us, on that day, the $1 million pool proved to be closer to a 1,000,000-calorie pool. I found that the ground in Greenland, especially higher ground, looked far easier to traverse than it really was. It was quite soft and heavy, meaning that more effort than expected was needed to cross open land. Nymphs, streamers, and all kinds of presentation didn't get so much as a bite. A change of fly line to a sink tip also didn't help. Time to move down, and finally something happened. Even if it was just a small resident fish that came off. Here was another spot that Peter felt really confident in, and he was right.
Oh, we're in. Gosh!
But the fish wouldn't stick. I was now fishing my heaviest streamer with a trailing fly on a sink tip line. We were really searching the depths.
That's fish. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it all over again.
The lower reaches of the tributary weren't providing anything, so it was back off to the main river. No landed fish all the way down the tributary. Not what I'd hoped for, but still a really enjoyable hike to another very different location and with great company.
I have a small small sheep I used to do sometimes when I done that path. Then I take like
Oh, wait, a fish. Oh, howdy how. Not the sticks, not the sticks. How many today?
Peter soon had to head back to camp to cook as I fished on. I was now snagging the riverbed a lot with this heavy rig, but I felt confident in it, especially with the weather turning ever more wild once again. Surely one would stick soon. Well, that was how the fishing was going on this day. Needing a confidence boost, one final rig tweak was made, exchanging the trailing nymph for a pink cowboy fly. One fishing day remained, but what to do? I'd explored all of the waters and could start to feel it in my legs. The weather was wild again, so I decided not to go far. A final shot at the main river with the same heavy rig as the previous day seemed the way to go.
just broke me off.
What is it about departure day? How many times do you leave a location to weather that you had wished for the whole time that you were there? As the next group arrived to a windless, sun-drenched wilderness paradise, having enjoyed a trouble-free journey there, we could just look back on a unique experience, with highs and lows, but some fantastic fishing, surrounded by stunning scenery. This had also been my first organised fishing holiday. Previously, every trip had been a basic DIY effort, so prior to travelling there had been a certain amount of anticipation, excitement and curiosity, especially when travelling with a group of 13 people who I'd never met before. It proved to be a wonderful group, full of laughter, stories, and of course, shared interest. Greenland left a lasting impression on me. From reading about local mythology and culture on the flight from Denmark, to seeing truly wild, beautiful, and exotic land and seascapes, and experiencing some wonderful local hospitality, this was a place that would forevermore hold a special place in my heart.
Come on now.
That was a nice one. Beautiful dots.
Isuman sana punta situ, mentafin ni pisat kanik nagkusina kami sumikikiman sila inaksakutano. Pisat dan kumadat nakasabot. Af sikkerhedsmæssige årsager er det ikke tilladt at efterlade bagage uden opsyn på lufthavnsområdet. Efterladt bagage vil blive fjernet. Due to security reasons, it is not permitted to leave luggage unattended on the airport premises. Unattended luggage will be removed.